Hello and welcome to the August Card Hoppin' Video Hop. This month's theme is Sunshine and we'll be using stencils or embossing folders. For my project, instead of using an embossing folder, I decided I would emboss with a stencil. So I'm using the Spellbinder's Sunburst stencil for this. Now I did have to go and find out what the correct sandwich is for this, and I am misting my paper to make it hopefully emboss a little easier. So the sandwich that I wound up using that worked well for me was using my Gemini plate, the rubber mat, this is the embossing mat, then the stencil with the cardstock, and I decided to tape it down so it would be in the right spot for me. Then the plastic and metal shims, I did this because I wanted a deep embossing, and then the other Gemini Junior plate. I know that's a lot to remember, and since it's not something that we do all the time, I've also got a cheat sheet over on my blog so that you guys can download that and keep it handy in case you want that for future reference. Next, I decided to do some ink blending on that sun rays stenciled background. Well, it's not really a stencil background, it's an embossed background. Anyway, I'm starting off with some yellow, and I'm trying out just using what's left over on my blending brushes, and it turned out there wasn't enough ink on there. So I'm grabbing some distress inks, and then I'm going to add some more color down. Don't worry, I will have a list of all the colors that I'm using down in the description and over on my blog. I started off with some mustard seed, and it's kind of a bright yellow, and then I'm going on to some orange that is carved pumpkin. Next, I'm using some Candied Apple. Then I'm going to be going in with some Wilted Violet. At this point you can kind of see what it is that I'm working towards. I'm trying to go in basically in RGB order. I'm starting off with the yellow, which is the bright center of the sun, and then I'm working my way out to the darker colors of a blue sky. So now we've got the Wilted Violet, and then I'm going to go on to some chipped Sapphire. Now that the base layer is down, I'm going to start working my way back and put down another darker layer of that color down. I want the colors to be a lot more vibrant and rich, and this second layer of the Distress Inks is definitely doing its job. I also love these little brushes that I'm using. It is making the putting down all of that ink so much easier on me. I always had trouble because I would be too heavy-handed in areas because I wanted the ink to go down faster. So I stopped bothering even trying to do it. Using these little brushes is definitely making it a lot easier to get these rich, vibrant colors and this blend just the way I want it. I'm also bringing some of that yellow down the different rays. I know it's going to cause a little bit of brown in some areas, but I really like that look of having a little bit of brightness going down the shaft of each of those rays. Next, I'm going to add some more texture. Yes, even more texture. That's not really me. Using a splat box. Now, this is just a box that I cut in a shape that I thought would work for me, and I'm just splattering on a little bit of water to get that ink to react a little bit and give it a little bit more texture in the background. I'm dabbing up some of the excess water from with a paper towel. Now this did give a really cool effect, and I'm really struggling. I am trying to do more with texture and not be afraid of multimedia and that sort of thing. So I'm grabbing out some brand new to me mica stains, distressed mica stains from Ranger. These are brand new and they're out for Halloween, which is awesome. And I went ahead and got the set because these are just gorgeous. I'm going to be trying to splatter on a little bit of the jack-o'-lantern and flickering candle over my panel and see how that does. Now I like I said, this is brand new. I just opened the bottle and they haven't been used at all. So the mica is sticking on the bottom, so it's taken a bit for me to get that all shaken out. And then I'm also going to have a little bit of issue trying to get the I guess the stain to splatter a little bit using just the end of the plunger. I probably should have used a paintbrush or something instead, but it is what it is, and it turns out okay in the end. Thinking that this is looking kind of cool. I've got the texture from the stencil, using it as an embossing folder. Then I've got the extra color on there from my ink blending, and then the splatter. But I'm wanting to get done with this thing. I need to move on to the next step, so I took my heat gun and I'm trying to get it to dry some of those droplets. And one thing I did notice is I thought it was much wetter than it actually was for quite a while, because this stuff does not dry the same way as some of our other splatter things. Because of that mica, it stays shiny, so even when it's getting close to being dry, it still looks very wet. Now, I wouldn't say to really do anything else over it until it is fully dry, because that can definitely mess things up. But I probably spent more time with my heat gun than I actually needed to. Now that the panel is dry, I'm taking out my stencil again, and I'm going to go over some of this with some Glimmer paste from Nuvo. Now this is the Moonstone. I absolutely love it. It kind of takes on the color of basically anything you put with it, and I'm almost out. I need to get me some more. I'm taping my stencil to the back of my to the front of my card panel, using the tape on the back of it to attach to the stencil, using some mint tape, and then I'm taking out my Nuvo Glimmer paste, and I'm going to spread that over the panel, starting at the center at the sun and working my way out. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge, but I am going to cover quite a bit of this. This is looking just gorgeous, and I'm already telling that I won't want to actually cover this up with any kind of a sentiment, so I'm going to stamp on some vellum. Don't do that very often. To be honest, I'm starting to do a lot of things that I didn't do very often before. Using some VersaFine Clair ink. I just got this recently, wanted to try it out because I keep hearing wonderful things about it. I'm going to emboss this with some Wow Clear embossing powder. Now I'm tapping off as much of the excess as I can, trying not to have any excess on there, and did still need to get a brush out. And then I've already got my heat gun heating up, because with vellum you have to be very, very careful, because you can definitely melt this stuff because it is plastic. So don't heat it too much or it's going to warp, and you don't want it. It's not going to look very nice. So now I need to adhere this to the front. Since it is mostly clear, it means you can see any kind of adhesive. So I'm using some double-sided tape from scrapbook.com, and then I'm going to attach that part to the back of my panel so that this belly band-ish sentiment will stay on there without a problem, and you won't be able to see it from the front. I decided to go with a black card base, and that will pretty much connect with the black embossing that's on the front. I'm also using some foam tape and art glitter glue. The reason I'm using the art glitter glue is it's going to give me a little bit of wiggle room so I can make sure that the rest of my panel is in place, because the the foam tape will definitely tear up the paper when I try to take it back off. And luckily I got everything on there first try. I was so excited. Now I decided I've got to do a little bit extra, because This has got a lot of sparkle and it looks gorgeous, but it's missing something. So I'm going with some heart sequins that I've got left over from Target. I add these things to pretty much everything. So I'm just going to add a few little hearts to the front of this card and call it done. Thank you so much for dropping by. Be sure to check out all the other people in the hop because I know they'll have some inspirational projects for you to see. Here's another video that I know you'll enjoy. Have a wonderful day, and remember, if I can make it, you can too.